Hello, my name is Brett Yanoski.
And I'm Austin Morales, and you're listening to The Indie Gamer On.
And today we are talking about the brand new announcement of the next Assassin's Creed in the franchise, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We talk about story, gameplay, much more details, and is this game necessary? Let's dive in.
As always, if you enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, and bang that bell, cuz we need you to bang that bell, please.
It is time for video game news. In this segment, we share the best headlines from the week in the gaming industry. If you all ever want to contribute to next week's episode in this segment, you can send us a question or comment at hello@theinnergamer.net, and it'll be read right here, live on the podcast. Not really live, but you know, you get my idea.
Recorded.
You know what I'm saying?
Live when
Recorded,
we do it.
Live. First thing we have to share is Assassin's Creed. We've been talking about this for a very long time, knowing that the rumors are all saying that there's a Viking game in development for Assassin's Creed. And finally, the Ubisoft team has come out and announced it and revealed what is now dubbed not Assassin's Creed Ragnarok, but it is actually Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It is brand spanking new. It's releasing holiday 2020, and it is going to be one of the first titles that is going to be on the PS5 and Xbox Series X, assuming the PS5 actually releases this holiday. They introduced a cinematic trailer, so there is no gameplay present yet. You play as a Viking. The Viking can be a male or a female. The name is, I think it's Eivor is how they pronounce it. So you play as Eivor, male or female. But we now know that this is going to cover what is considered a very small story bit area in the 9th century of the Vikings, as opposed to going more broad and global. And this is going to include the Vikings as they try and take over and get new land, better homes for their families, and come into what is now considered England. It was very exciting to watch, but then at the end of it, I was kind of like, this was fine.
Assassin's Creed always has it feels like the same every time. Same cutscene design, character movements. I was hoping to get a little more jazz out of watching this, but at this point, I'm just not very excited about it. Something needs to change. It needs to feel different. So, someone said, how many more times can you milk this horse?
Yeah.
You know, it's been milked so much, you know, maybe it just needs to just die. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that idea. They built a foundational story that can largely be taken anywhere. And I like that. And I like the premise behind the Assassins and the Templars. And looking back to the early days of Assassin's Creed, the modern day component to it, the Animus and jumping in the Animus and entering into these ancestors' memories was awesome. Except I didn't like the modern day part of it. After a while, it got stale and uninteresting. I don't know. Do I want them to get rid of that entirely, the modern day story part? I just like this idea of assassins throughout the history. And I've always appreciated that they've kept that foundation component, but they have definitely gotten a lot of misses. I would like to see them kind of branch out and explore something different in another realm. But I'm curious to see how this all ties into the Assassin's Creed universe. Because they brought back the blade, the hidden blade, as we saw in there, which apparently Odyssey didn't have that. How does this assassin tie into the other bits of the world? This is supposed to be set before the time of Assassin's Creed 1, but I think it's also after the time of Odyssey or Origins. Yeah. So it falls in a different kind of era, but it's a different place we haven't explored yet. The concern that I have is that I feel like these Assassin's Creed games have gotten farther and farther away from enjoyment for me because of the fact that they just get so big. You have to dedicate your life to it to actually enjoy it. It used to be very attainable and manageable. They have this new feature that's going to be something about raids, where you can go on raids to collect resources from other enemy castles and stuff like that. So we saw in the trailer, they have these big, massive battles where there's people going after each other. And apparently that's actually a gameplay rather than these more isolated battle instances where you're an assassin who's just going after like 5 people in a crowd. You're going to have these big Vikings versus the enemy battle situations where you're raiding these buildings. And that's a new element to the storyline. You're going to get to know the characters on your ship. I guess you can actually build and enhance and grow your settlements. I just don't know why that exists there. This is a combat game, melee combat game, but you have a settlement that you're having to grow and manage and collect resources for.
You go to Ubisoft for the worlds. You really don't go for the stories, the characters. And I really think they need to switch that around somehow. And the issue with the video game industry is you don't have a lot of good storytellers. And I feel like Ubisoft is very corporate too. I don't care if your story is 10 hours, 20 hours, or 50 hours like The Witcher. Just tell me a good story that I want to be in, and you can put all the extra stuff in there, in my opinion, and that's fine. Like, it's if you tell a good story, I'm going to want to play the rest of your game.
If I can beat the game, then it's not a long story, but it's probably the right length of story.
Exactly.
It's like, because I'm not going to beat a game that's going to be like, I don't beat games that are over 35, 40 hours long. It's like impossible for me. Like the longest game I probably beat is Mass Effect. I just don't have that time anymore. There's obviously a huge number of people out there that want to play these games and do play these games, and that's why they continue to make these super long epics. I just can't foresee, like everybody I talk to, they just don't have time for the games anymore.
I don't think it's worth it. You can make a good game in 20 hours. 20 hours worth of gameplay.
I agree. They brought out Odyssey, and it was 30, 40, what do you say, 40 hours of gameplay or something like that. I wish that was 40, more like 25 or 30. And then they brought out like 3 DLC packs that were free, that were additional content that kept you coming back to the game. And I would appreciate that, because I'm still playing Borderlands. There's new content they've released for that. I'm still going back to it to play some of that stuff, even though I beat the game. And I like that, but I hate that they put so much of this at the very onset of it, with these games being so large. I mean, I feel like half of these games, they could just say, here's a 20-hour game, and then in 3 months, you're going to get another 20 hours of content. I mean, you're still getting the money out of the game, but it could be a way to entice people to buy it more throughout the year, because you're going to get, now don't pitch it as like this is an incomplete game. But
yeah, right.
Like here's the game, and then there's more to the story that will then come out at a later date. In this game, I'm pulling an article from IGN that talks about a bunch of details that came not only from the trailer, but from other interviews and stuff like that about it. But this game is going to have a lot of changes to combat, so it's going to put a lot of emphasis on dual wielding combat. So 2 axes basically, and you can upgrade all these weapons, add new parts and pieces to then make them better, stronger, all that stuff. There's going to be open world activities with hunting, fishing, etc., which I think is useless. In the world itself, it's going to be 9th century England during the Dark Ages. The map will include Norway, as well as after the Vikings leave, they're going to enter the 4 kingdoms of England: Wessex, Northumbria, East Anglia, and Mercia. Major cities will include London, Winchester, and Jorvik. This will be a day 1 launch title for the Series X and PS5. All your gear is customizable. Players will be able to make custom Viking raiders for the raiding parties. You'll be able to forge a home for themselves and either Vikings with a focus on building a settlement, your Viking homestead. You can upgrade barracks, blacksmiths, tattoo parlor, etc. Alliance examples include conducting a marriage, unite clans, romance options available too. So there's just like, there's a lot of stuff here, and that's what bothers me. I've always appreciated Assassin's Creed, and it's one of my more favorite franchises. Hope it's fun, and we'll see where it goes.